Hangout on Aries Live, and here we are again with some Headless friends. And I'm going to ask each person to introduce themselves. I'm Richard, I'm in London, and just love hanging out with my Headless friends. So let's start. Sebastian, you're down there on the right for me.
Hi everybody, I'm Sebastian. I'm Italian, and I lost my head, so to say, 3 years ago. And it literally changed my life. I count my life in before and after headlessness. And the one after is the real one.
Very good, thank you. Sam?
Hi, I'm Sam. I'm in Perth, Western Australia, and I'm loving the headless way. It's very, very nice to live in reality at last.
Great, thank you. Carol?
Hi. I'm in Suffolk, England, and I first met Douglas 45 years ago, and the Headless Way has been my absolute lodestone for all of my life, absolute necessity.
Wonderful, thank you. Charlie?
Yes, hello everybody. I'm Charlie. I'm in Canada, Eastern Ontario, and happy to be here. There's some faces I've not met before, people here I haven't met, so I look forward to this. Thank you.
Great, marvelous. Katharina?
Hi, I'm in Holland, and I'm looking forward to have a nice chat with you all about Headless, because it also, for me, it changed my life, and I'm very happy with it.
Marvelous, thank you. Bill?
Hi, I'm also in Suffolk in England, and yeah, it's always a good use of an hour to come and hang out with you guys, talking about this.
Lovely, thank you. And Renato?
I'm Renato, yes, hi, my name's Renato, and I'm also in Perth, Western Australia, and nothing's changed.
Nothing's changed.
Yes, it keeps doing that.
It keeps doing it.
Actually, in a hangout we've just had, there was a friend called Doug who says that he listens to music, and sometimes he finds a song reveals new meaning, even after years of listening to it. And he was listening to Across the Universe, and John Lennon saying, "Nothing's going to change my world." And he sort of went, "That's it, nothing is going to change my world." So anyone got any reflections about living from headlessness? Just to include the viewer here, we're just noticing that we're looking out of one open space here. That's my experience. I see my face on the screen. I see everyone else's face on the screen. But here I find no face and room for all of you, which is just wonderful.
I've got a question. I've been recently rereading Douglas's book, The Scepter in the Lake, The Spectre in the Lake, which is not all that well known, and he seems to take the view that everyone who is on the journey into the interior, so to speak, has to spend some time distinguishing between what's at the center here, the clarity, and the ersatz personality that we all entertain as ourselves, the little guy. And he says this: no matter who you are or what path you travel, is what brings us together, whether we're Buddhist, Christian, Muslim, or on any other path. That it's fundamental to spiritual practice, I suppose you could say, to distinguish, focus and distinguish between the little guy and the big guy. And I would just like your comments on that, which seem to be for Douglas something that one never got beyond. and in fact, the very last bit of the book, where his hero has become the head of the community of you could say the spiritual community in all its various forms. He insists that although he's given a speech saying he's going to give up being the head and that no head is required, which I think we would all go hooray and throw our hats in the air. At the same time, he says, well, but right now I'm still invaded by my personality. There's a little saintly person trying to get to the center, and there's a little teachery person trying to get to the center, and that I have to be vigilant at all times to be aware of those tendencies and to guard against them in a certain sense. So that there is a sense of struggle, there's a sense of constant vigilance being required, and that's
Absolutely.
not a side of things that we often talk about. So it's just been renewed for me, and I'd love to hear what people have got to say about that.
Carol.
Yes, absolutely agree with you there, Bill. Absolutely agree with you. It's a constant, I wouldn't say struggle, but it's always there. The little person wants to assert him or herself. And what I find is it becomes easier to recognize those moments and those times. They become much more obvious. So that in the sense, you don't have to be vigilant. Well, I don't feel I have to be vigilant all the time, because I am often brought up short by the invasion of the little guy into this space, and then I'm able to do something about it, to apologize to somebody, or to remedy it in some way, to just go back to the source. I think this is a universal sort of problem. The little ego squirms about and wants to be heard. That's what I feel, anyway.
It's very interesting, Bill. I think also the context of that, when he wrote that book, I dare say he didn't quite have the same collegial community that we're enjoying now. That there was a tendency for the model for spirituality was there for there to be a teacher surrounded by disciples, and I think that tendency for the teachery, saintly one to go into the center and take that position is a great trap for people who are taking the role of a teacher or a guru. And I mean, generally, as Carol said, it's something we've all got to be on guard against. But I think in the context of that particular quote, I think it's very, very important for people who are going to be in a teaching role of any kind, or to be very aware of that, because there's a mechanism that sets up that we've probably all had some experience of, where if the guy at the center falls for it and the people on the outside fall for it, you've got the mechanism for a cult, or for mayhem. And it's something I think what I like about the Headless Way has probably got less of a danger of that happening, because we're all here in a circle rather than any one of us being the guru. But and I think that the distinction between the first and the third person, that to me is the essence of this approach. It really is the essence of it. And I haven't found a problem whose solution is not in that moment and in that situation making that distinction.
I also find, more than a struggle, I also find it is more of an effort on my part. Now that I know how the rules of the games are, how the rules of the game are, now that I know what to do, I have to put a decent effort to keep it up. And part of this effort is joining into the community, like what I'm doing right now with you. And part of it is obviously trying to improve shortcomings in the small Sebastian's life. But as Sam said, the inspiration for that always comes from a source, and it's always available. So it's a constant effort and a constant result, obviously.
Yes, I think that the conditioning to be Richard is so profound, and I've come to accept and love it, that it provides a contrast with who I really am. And Richard, I see now, is out there on the screen with all of you, and here is the nothing. And now the contrast between being Richard and being the source is fantastic, because I'm so deeply acquainted with Richard, you know. And I feel that the conditioning is like being put under a spell by a wicked witch. And I know what to do to free myself from the spell. I just go and find a beautiful princess who's going to kiss me. Did I say that? I mean, I see who I am. But it is a breaking of a spell, isn't it? And I love that it doesn't involve any kind of preparation, or, you know, you just look, and then you realize you can apply this remedy. You just look and you're free. And the conditioning carries on.
Yes, I think at one point I had this notion that I had to try to get rid of Charlie, you know, and when I look here in this space here, and I see Charlie there on the screen, and there's no getting rid of him. Charlie's ever present, and it's not just in the company of other people. You know, I find Charlie exists even when I go for a walk through the bush or whatever. There's a reflection that takes place, and I'm there as well. He's there as well, however you want to word that. But I think that for me now is a matter of accepting the fact that Charlie's there and being able to have a distinction, as opposed to trying to suppress anything or hold something back, or, you know, that kind of stuff.
And do you find Charlie or Richard?
You've got an echo somewhere. If someone's not wearing headphones,
You can see the little guy up there, and you can love him and her with all of the imperfections. But in a sense, when you're brought up short and you've recognized some of those little incidents, the next time you'll remember to go back to the source and sort them out a little bit better. I suppose that's what I mean.
Bill, you asked the question. What do you have a thought about it?
No, not really. No, I don't have anything coherent to say about it, which is why I was interested to hear what people had to say. It's a very strange thing. It seems to, rather like our Hangout, it seems to echo the notion of what Douglas also said is that the contrast between the need to be right, the need for more, the need for attention, and the deep peace and safety of the center. The contrast between the two is what gives life. That without both there is no dynamism and no energy. That's really interesting.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, I'd really agree with that. You know, I had the experience of that today. It's my day off today, and so I decided yesterday that I'd go down to the beach. And by the time I got to the bus stop this morning, my little ego was giving me so much grief about that you're not supposed to have a day off, and you've got more important things to do, and it'd be better if you just turned around and went back, you know, and just to, you know, and the endless years of practice and all the rest of it, and just and all I did was just kept listening to it as I kept traveling down from where I'm staying to the beach. You know, the time I got to the beach, I actually enjoyed the experience, and I was on the train, and I love the train because you hold the bar in the middle of the train if you're standing up, and you can actually just, you know, you're completely still. You know, the world is just passing by you, and as soon as you read as soon as that comes back into center again, well, the voice actually the voice really disappears. It's not even that important. But it also needed attention as well. So as I was walking through the trains, as I was working through Perth train station, up along the walls there, they have these posters of children's paintings. Right, and as soon as my ego connected with that, you know, it could have its little fun, and then again it got appeased. You know, so I think it requires at different times, you know, either to go back into here or actually it needs some sort of conversation sometimes. It just depends how strong it is. You know, like that's such a normal habit for my ego that I know that I can just go along with it. You know, it wouldn't stop me. But there's such powerful habits. It's what Richard said. You know, there's such power. And they don't particularly reduce. You know, I think they're part of our makeup. But you know, you become much more friends with them. That's the contrast. That's between like life and death, isn't it? You know, or birth and death. Sorry. You know, isn't it? And first and third person experience. You know. The pure subjective experience is just perfectly all right.
I feel
there's a lovely.
Go on, Sam.
No, you go, Richard.
Well, I was just over a period of many years, I've shifted from seeing the presence of Richard as a problem to seeing that I couldn't get rid of him, and then realizing why he's there, and really now welcoming him. And this has gone along with a deep appreciation of others.
That's
true.
Yes,
I'm both the one and I am Richard. And therefore everyone is both the one and Richard. And here we are together as the one with many. It's just, and there's nothing really changed except my resistance to the presence of Richard somewhere there, not here, has reduced. And what a blessing to have these individuals around.
Yes, I often think that ego is nothing more than resistance to yourself.
Yes.
You know,
that's a nice
that's all it is.
way of putting it. Yes.
No, I really think that, and what going and becoming aware of this does is it allows an organic process of acceptance. What Richard's just described. It's not a project you have. It's not like a set of instructions you have to. It's like a natural unfolding of or a release of resistance to being who you are, because you see over and over again and in lots of different situations and in greater and greater depth the absolute inescapability of being who you are, and that's, as Richard said, that's okay. And when where I'm up to now is noticing when resistance comes up, and being very I've started to be very curious. And the question that popped into my head the other day was, so what do I think is wrong with this moment right now? What exactly do I think is wrong? You know, and when you look at that, you realize that, well, what exactly is wrong? There's a feeling, and there's some thoughts, and there's a pattern there, and there's some past stuff. But does that actually constitute a problem, or can I just contain it all and get on with it? And the answer so far in every case has been, look, it's okay, you can go with it. And I've just found that very, very cheerful, actually, a matter of great cheerfulness.
Yes,
and
for me,
the thing that
Katerina, go on.
Yes, for me too, the acknowledging of the need of the little person. The need to be there as this little person, the way you say that too, Sam, and all of you. and that's so wonderful because it's all there and it's all necessary to learn and to have experience. Otherwise, we couldn't have experiences.
Mm.
Wonderful.
But what came up during this little epiphany was there's been a Zen story that's always fascinated me. Some of you may have heard of it. It's just a koan, or it's a Zen story, a teaching story about a bull, and it's this big bull, and he's in a paddock, and there's a fence. And one day the bull really longs to be outside the paddock. He really feels himself constrained, and he wants to escape. One day the farmer leaves the gate open, and the bull sees it, and he runs through the gate like a bull at a gate. and when he gets to the gate, he realizes that the gate's on the edge of a cliff, and he moves out, and he moves out through the gate, and he's free, and on the edge of the cliff, and his tail stays inside the gate. His tail stays inside the enclosure, and the tail becomes very, very interesting. And I've always thought, what the hell does that mean? You know, I always felt it was significant, and I realized that, you know, we get you see yourself as this, and you're out. You know, the goose is out. You're through the gate. You've never been in the gate. But there's this tail, which is you're looking down at. You know, I'm looking down at my tail, which is still in the world of phenomena, and has all my conditioning in that. And that tail, which includes my feelings and thoughts, becomes very, very interesting. You know, it's not something I have to chop off. So that's how I understand that koan this week. Anyway, I'll probably see something else next week.
Yes, a deepening appreciation of the world and of you and me, and you know, our differences, our separation here within the one. You know, you don't have to choose between the one and the many. You're both, and it's such a deeply beautiful invention and situation.
Mm-hmm.
Not without its problems, and that's the point.
I think what surprised me, startled me really, on rereading this book was the sense that the scenario in the book is that everyone who is in Godsea, all of the various people who have a spiritual life, had, no matter who they were, to come and look down into the water on the periphery of the castle and look at the little guy in the water, and to recognize that this is a dangerous thing. This is a potentially killing thing if it's allowed to invade the center. And that sense of vigilance was, and I don't think it's the whole story by any means. I mean, I hear what you're saying, Richard. It's lovely, but it interested me that a book that was written really quite late in Douglas's evolution, yet was characterizing the little guy as only safe behind glass, as he put it, behind at a distance. And the consequences of allowing the little guy in, which he's always, or she is always trying to get to, were there was danger there. That's I suppose what was the surprise for me.
Why a surprise?
Well, because, you know, the way you're putting it, Richard, is that this is a synthesis. This is a beautiful, and I understand that. This is a synthesis that my immersion in the one allows me to entertain and enjoy the little guy, and yet there is that other side to it where one has to be determined in some way not to be the little guy at center, and that the
yes.
consequences of allowing that to happen are actually dangerous and you know, aware. There's a danger there. That was what was interesting to me.
Yeah, very good.
Yes.
I think that's also the.
Katharina?
Yeah, I think what Sam said about that if the little one is claiming to be the big one, then it's dangerous. And that's what you meant, Sam, I suppose. If you are a teacher and you claim as a little person, you claim the big one or the big one, something like that.
Yes.
That's a danger. Yes.
I think in general, not just when you're a teacher, but that's a particularly egregious situation then. But generally, when you mistake yourself entirely to be the little one, that's dangerous. And I think that is really where the.
Sorry about that. I interrupted you. I was just thinking of the word identification with the small one as being.
Yeah. Well, identification solely with the little one. It's when you lose the view of the whole setup. That is very dangerous, because when that happens, you have in fact brought the little one. Here he's invaded you because you think you're him. Whereas when you see the whole setup, you kind of there's a kind of a centripetal force that pushes him out in a way. It's not that you dislike him or resist him. It's just that happens as a result of seeing this here. It's like you see. It's like when you whirl. The world. When you're whirling, there's this center and there's the whirling thing around it. It becomes very clear. Or like the cyclone that's approaching us, it has a still eye and all the clouds moving around. And as long as you're in this, if you remember the whole setup and see it and notice it, then you see that you're not the little one, and he is behind glass. It's when you forget and he becomes you that it is dangerous. And I think that's where the resistance to ego comes in, because you can't bear to be him. So there's a kind of self-loathing that goes with that experience, and a resistance to experience that goes with that experience. That can kind of, it's a self-feeding. So you have to be, that's the vigilance, I think. There is a self-perpetuating aspect to that mistake or that egoic confusion that is quite dangerous. And it does, I think, require, well, certainly for me it requires vigilance, just to remember to see to keep seeing the setup. I think it probably, over time, and I haven't been at this as nearly as long as some of you guys, it is getting a little more natural and a little easier for me to notice. But I can't imagine that it'll ever be I'll ever be free of the need to exercise this vigilance. I don't kid myself that that's going to happen anytime.
I wonder if I could suggest an idea on how this might integrate with a conversation, I guess, in the way that the little one, Charlie, when you're the little one, you are a thing amidst things, and Charlie can get his back up against the wall. Here there is no wall. Here the space is infinite. But the danger of having your back up against the wall is to release yourself from being trapped in a physical way. As an example, I've been in an automobile accident. 8 years ago, I was hauling a trailer and I lost an axle on my trailer, and the trailer went out of control and it kind of swerved my truck, and I hit the median of the highway and I went down. And at that moment, I can't say that, I certainly could say that, I'm consciously aware of myself as a thing in the world in an accident. I'm right there. And as far as that being a dangerous situation, I'm pretty sure that being Charlie and hanging on to the steering wheel and guiding my vehicle off to the side of the road, it was a good thing. And that may have been an element of danger that that Bill, I think you're talking about in a way. I'm not sure if that makes sense to you or not, but
yeah. A lot of that processing that goes on at that level is purely biology, and it's also why a lot of like spiritual people get kicked into this space through a trauma or through mountain climbing or something like that, because the ego can't deal with it. There's too much information coming in, and it doesn't know what to do. So and partly also the blood comes out the front part of the brain, which is your ability to reflect, and it all goes into the nervous system for you to fight and to run away, which is actually so that it's a sort of relief system in a way, because if you had to think about what you needed to do, you wouldn't be able to do it. You wouldn't have been able to process it in the time.
Yes.
So it's like your first experience of actually of capacity, of real capacity, and then we spend years trying to reclaim the space, whereas it's actually already a given by just without any need for a accident or any other form of excitement, because it's actually in a way mundane.
I find it so interesting, this, because we're the one debating the merits or the dangers of the little one. It's such a kind of brilliant thing to do, isn't it?
I think that when we take on the little one, we're usually in the witnessing mind, aren't we? That's how I see it, and so. And it can be a sort of a pseudo version of capacity, of this space, that you think that you're actually here when actually the ego has decided to take over and watch the space a little bit. I've noticed that in myself a bit. Like, you actually think that you're being headless, and actually you're not. You're just witnessing the experience of trying to be headless. It's an interesting refinement, and it's where the mind actually tries to trick you, and so it's only a shift, because all you have to do is just catch that your mind is actually doing that, and then that disappears. But I don't like the word refined, because it doesn't really apply to this, but there is a sort of, as one applies this more and more, you can see how the ego wants to take over a bit and come on center and do, what Sam was saying, take charge of the process, really.
Yeah, it's the attitude, the attitude of being headless, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. But what I love about this approach, as opposed to mindfulness training, mindfulness training is particularly vulnerable to what Amarnato has just described, because you are trained to actually look at stuff as if you are the person looking at it. And in the mindfulness training I did, there was no actual introduction to this that went with it. So mindfulness did set up this kind of dichotomy between the one who was watching it all and all the stuff going on. So I agree with that. What I find about this is that it instantly vaporizes the watcher. There's no witness involved. There are no witnesses. It's a perfect crime in the sense that when you see this, it's not even all that. It's not even all that mindful. It's not like you're suddenly taking everything in with laser sharpness. It's just that
it's impossible to be mindful.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's impossible to be mindful. You can't be mindful in that space. It's impossible. If you're mindful, then you've actually lost it, haven't you?
Right.
Well, I think you're mindful. You're aware of what you need to be. Zen story. I'm really boring with these, but they've started making sense to me at last. So I'm going to share this one. A disciple complained to his teacher that he was very absent-minded. That the training was making him absent-minded. And the teacher said, "Well, if I poked you with a pin now, you'd feel it, wouldn't you?" He said, "Yeah." And he said, "Well, you're not. Your mind is there." And I kind of take I kind of take it that's what mindfulness is to be awake when you need to be, to notice what you need to notice. It's not this kind of fantasy of omniscient awareness, that we kind of picked up from somewhere. I think that's kind of mad. I reserve the right to be absent-minded and spaced out. It's very important to me.
I think another thing too is that the Headless Way is so clear. Look at the mirror, there's your face. It tries to creep up your arm. We know what that's like, what Bill is talking, and then you look and it's there. It's not here. And we're all living from this place, and we express it differently. But I take your point, Bill. I think that's really good. I mean, on the one hand, it's a delight to have all these little ones around, but there is a very serious side to that invasion, and I think that's yeah.
Absolutely. It's not to be taken lightly.
And let me just share another thing about that book, having just freshly read it. This was really interesting.
By the way, you can buy this book on Amazon. The Spectre in the Lake.
It's a lovely book, not well known. Anyway, so when the hero, Hodgepodge, who's Hodge here and Podge there, gets to Godsea, he goes to see some of the various people there, some of whom are pretty crazy, and all of whom are involved in self-knowledge or whatever you want to call it. And there's a particular chap called Sebastian who has a cell in which he keeps the casement which is open to the perilous sea. This is what Douglas calls the infinite, the mysterious infinite that we're all coming from. He keeps the casement a little bit open. He has a windscreen wiper. He keeps it closed. It's all fugged up, but he has a windscreen wiper and an immensely complicated machine. And what that machine does is it demystifies the sea, so that he can see a very little piece of the sea, and that sea is completely clear. He understands it absolutely, and gets very cross with the hero because the hero says, "Well, actually, I prefer to stand on the balcony and have and look at the fog now and again," which is
so brilliant.
Isn't that funny?
That's very, very clever,
isn't it?
He's obviously. He wrote that after tangling with the Buddhist Society, I would guess.
I don't know. But I mean, one of the things that
all views expressed in this video hangout are personal and
you are not responsible, Rich.
I mean, one of the major themes of I suppose of our discussions is how clear this is, how lacking in any necessity to believe anything, how free of dogma. So, and then there is Douglas in this book saying he loves the mystery, he loves the mist, and okay, if you want to, you can reduce yourself down to a tiny little laser view, which will make everything clear, but not for him. So again, it's full of I don't know. It just debunks a lot of the myths that we have, and I suppose one of them is how clear we all are about this. And the lovely thing is, we're not clear about anything. There's nothing to be clear about, And our collective gob is smacked. I just love it.
Just getting back to Richard's point, the views expressed here, I'd have to say, though, that if you were going to insult a religion, probably Buddhism's the safest one.
And don't you think, Richard, just as you say that everyone has their own take on this, we're all unique, I think it also depends on your conditioning, how you treat the little one. And I think with Douglas, he did say, as Bill was saying, he did say, "Thank God I'm not the little one," which implies that he perhaps never really came to that love and acceptance, of the little guy that you're talking about. It's to do with, you know, all that stuff, baggage. Do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, we're all different.
Yeah.
I have times in which I'm also very happy not being that little one. And then again, he's like Charlie said at the beginning, he's not going anywhere anytime soon. So he lives with me, doesn't he? He lives with me. I see him every day.
Yes.
Not only feeling, in my bed.
That's right. Hello, I'm the one. I'd like to introduce you to Richard. He's always here, so you might as well say hello.
Yeah. I must say that when I was on my in the periodontist chair today getting my gums cleaned, I was awfully glad not to be the little one.
Yeah. You're happy in those situations. You're happy you're not there at all, right?
Yes, that's right. I was glad there was no one on the receiving end of that experience.
Did you say gums? Having your gums, please, Sam?
Gums.
Yeah. Once a year I get my gums cleaned. I've got a problem with my gums. Yeah, my teeth.
Oh!
I have a problem with
gums.
Oh, my guns.
Carol was interested.
Yeah, my guns. Yeah.
I always clean my rifle.
You want to know where to get your guns cleaned? Yeah.
Okay.
I find it wonderful being in the dentist's chair if one really sees what's happening, because when the dentist peers over and looks into this clearly enormous space, it's really, I really enjoy that. She's looking into this cavern.
Yeah, I can relate to that. I was just there yesterday. Yeah.
Yeah, lovely.
Yeah.
Maybe pulling a tooth out of it. I mean, what's that? Wow.
It's mostly the fear that it's
Can you
it's
please
painful.
put that back?
Yeah, what a contrast between the view from the center and the view from about a foot away. You know, she's squirting water and air and, you know, into this very blocked up thing with complex problems and features. And here, there's just these sensations going on in this huge, unlimited openness. It's remarkable. Not necessarily all that comfortable. And we say, well, the same thing's happening. You know, me in the dentist chair and you in the dentist chair is a different kettle of fish. It really is.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And yet we say, well, it's the same thing, you know.
But seeing it's not the same thing is definitely the key to the experience not being as unpleasant as it could be. Because if you put yourself as a thing in the dentist chair, then there's resistance, and then there's you know, then there's suffering basically. You know, whereas if you see what you've described, that you know, instruments are going into the void, and you know, suction is happening, and there's a whole lot of feelings. Then there's nobody at the receiving end of the experience. There's no poor little thing there copying it. So if you take yourself at the way the dentist is seeing you, you are the one copying it, and that's when the problem rises. That's when suffering happens.
Yes. Also the fear.
And what's happened in that
coming.
situation?
Sorry?
Yeah, all of that, all of the anticipation of pain,
Yeah.
the anticipation of pain, and you know, all of that. Yeah. And what you've done then is you've let the guy that the dentist is seeing, you've let that little one occupy the space where you actually are. That's what's happened. That's suffering. That's egoic confusion.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing? So simple and yet so hard.
Yeah. It's great that it's both, though, isn't it? I mean, it would be boring if we just got it and then that was it. I mean, you have to keep getting it. And you have to keep getting it in all these different complicated ways that have been set up for you by your life. It's just terrific. I used to want my conditioning to come to an end. I don't want that anymore. You know, I used to have a fantasy about being done. You know, I want this process to be over. I want my troubles to be over. I want to get to the end of the rainbow, whatever. And I kind of lost interest in that project now.
I think the rediscovery of who you really are, and then having friends. I mean, if I ask you all, is the world, I mean, you may put it differently, but is the world kind of floating in the great void now for you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is everything within you just miraculously appearing within you now?
Sure is.
Do you know how you do it?
Good if I know.
Apple, my iPhone.
all the voices are in your consciousness right here. Is that true?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It is.
Your room for everybody here. True?
Yeah.
Yes.
Room to spare.
You're totally safe as who you are, but you're on a great adventure at the same time.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And you're everybody else's little one as well.
Yes. Yes.
And so much fun to be that the other persons and the little ones of the other persons, because they are so wonderful and nice. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. God.
Miracle.
That's rich, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
I've got a bit of a problem at the moment because the little person wants a cup of tea.
Okay.
I'm hearing you, Carol. I'm hearing you.
Oh, now that is serious.
Yeah.
That's a real first world problem.
Have you seen that cartoon, Carol? It's called Anarchy in the UK. And there's a picture, stick figures, a table, and one person sitting down at the table and one person standing over. And there's a pot of tea and a cup of tea on the table. And it's called Anarchy in the UK. And the person standing up is going, "Drink your tea." And the one sitting down is going, "No." That's anarchy in the UK.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Everything falling apart when you refuse to drink a cup of tea.
Okay.
It reminds me of some great graffiti I saw on a wall in Fremantle. It had the anarchy symbol. It said "Anarchy now," and underneath it, someone had put, "Don't tell me what to do."
Okay.
Did Richard tell you about Scott Metcalfe's bumper sticker?
Yes.
Priceless.
I'm pro-choice. I think it's great. It's got a deep conundrum buried in it, as well as it sends up.
Another thorny question we can approach in another hangout. The question of free will. Are you really freely choosing to have a cup of tea, or is it just arising?
Well, Charlie's got one. This isn't fair.
Yeah.
There is a hierarchy here after all.
Why is it that discussions of free will always make me lose the will to live?
Well, I'm pro-choicelessness.
Yeah, me too.
Here, here.
But Scott just said, no, it doesn't say I'm pro-choicelessness. It says pro-choicelessness, because you can't even say I.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Be careful, Bill. Be careful. Well, how has it been to hang out together today? We've had a very serious discussion.
Oh, yeah, it's great. I love it when it goes really serious and we all get wrinkly browed and you know, go into the real nitty-gritty of things like this. It's great.
Yeah.
Great, Richard. Thank you, Richard. Great.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Carol wants her cup of tea.
I was going to say.
Bye. Hey, there's no rush. No rush. Don't have to go anywhere.
This is yeah, Carol's saying, here's your hat, what's your hurry?
Well, we were going to carry on for 5 minutes, but because Carol wants to...
Sacrifices have to be made.
My dad used to say if there were visitors who stayed too long, he used to look out of the window and say, "It's not raining out."
Now's your chance.
Yes.
Come on, let's not delay. I need a cup of tea as well.
Okay. All right, I will formally close this meeting of the Headless Hangout. Well, lovely to hang out with you all, and this space view is delightful. And any final thoughts to share?
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.
It's been a great cup of tea.
It's just so beautiful to see everybody in this format. So.
Yeah, it's lovely.
Yes.
Okay.
One last question. Pot or tea bag? I'll just leave you with that.
You mean marijuana? Is that what you mean?
No, pot, teapot. You old hippie,
okay.
get out of here.
All views expressed here are personal. All right. Okay. Lovely to see you all. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.